Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Beyond Max Q. I'm Mollie Jahner, your host, and I am joined today by Eliza Lin, the co-founder of Return.com. And let me just say, before she gets started introducing herself, that I've had the privilege to get to know her over the last few weeks. And she is just a tremendous person. She has such a great energy and a lot of really valuable things to say. So tune in. One of the things I've been saying a lot, I've been quoting you, I've been giving you attribution for it, but the idea of work-life integration, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the podcast. But with that, Eliza, please feel free to introduce yourself and tell us about what you're doing.
Thanks. I appreciate it. And thank you for the opportunity to be here. So let's start with that. I'm so happy to spend time with you, and I have thoroughly enjoyed getting to know you as well.
Thank you.
So I'm Eliza, co-founder of Return.com. What is Return.com? Well, it started with a box of shame. I don't know if anyone else has a box of shame of all the items that they've been meaning to return, but I do. And so, and my walk-in closet is full of items that maybe they just didn't fit, or there's this thing I like to call a medium. It's a small medium. I never know what size I am in any retailer, or especially like a new brand. And so I wanted to be mindful of course, like my consumption, but I also wanted to do something with the items that I have in my box of shame. And so we built a mobile application that syncs all your purchases, calculates your return date for you, so you don't have to dig through your inbox and look for receipts and go online and argue with chatbots. And if you decide that you want to return an item, it's one click, and our AI agent actually goes out and talks to, Target or Nordstrom or REI on your behalf. It can talk in text. It can actually call. It gets your shipping label, and then you're done. You can either drop off your item at the store or at a UPS or FedEx. And so for us, we just were really trying to solve a real world problem. Future state, we want to build a donation engine so you can turn those items into good, potentially a marketplace. But for us, we just wanted to empower people to be able to see all their purchases across retailers and be able to make the best decision for them and their family.
I love that. And I definitely have, maybe not a box of shame, but for me, like my kids' feet are growing so quickly that like I'll buy cleats and then all of a sudden it's like, wait, that's not the right size. And then you just don't even think about it. You're like, oh, maybe the next one will wear it, but then it's like they don't fit it either. So I was particularly excited about kind of like your philanthropic efforts that you were talking about around, what you're doing and your goals there. And can you talk a little bit about that?
Can, and I'm so happy to do it. With the rise, well, first of all, let's actually just talk about my own shame around this. I think that that's really important. When I started Return.com, I didn't realize that 80% of the items that are returned actually either go to a landfill or they're incinerated. And so most of those items contribute to climate and waste. And so as we're thinking about how to make the world a better place, how can we make money and do good, we really wanted to empower people to do great things with their items, which is, connect it with a local charity. And so the idea behind our donation engine is if you have something that you want to return, but maybe you missed the return window because we're human and we're busy and we all have other competing priorities. What if you could, pay a shipping fee and we match that item with a local charity? So when I think about my own box of shame, I have, anything from like t-shirts to socks to jackets, and I'd really like to put those to good use. And so for us, like our core mission, and we haven't built it yet, and it's something that we're actively working on, is really giving people the ability to do good with the items that they have.
And I also didn't know that. I didn't realize that. I thought you return it. No, maybe they use it, but I didn't realize it just goes to the garbage.
It
Which
does.
is terrible when you think about it. I mean, that's so much clothing, especially when you think of women's fashion. Like, my goodness, like fast fashion, and there's so much around that, and that's
Yeah. And I would say that, I had no idea until I actually started doing the research. And I was a little bit embarrassed. I didn't realize that it was such a problem. But now it seems like it's become a little bit more mainstream. I don't know if you've seen the Brandy Melville documentary or Shop Now on Netflix, but there seems to be just an idea that it's entering the conversation, that people are understanding that there is, a detrimental impact with returns and over purchasing. But I don't want to shame anyone because I love to shop
no,
more than the
it's
next
good. I think it's good. I mean, you're doing something really, really
Yeah.
needed. Like you're solving a problem, but you're also doing good with it, which I think is really cool and important work. I would love to, since this is a founder focused podcast, I would love you have a very unique story. I would love for you to talk a little bit about, you as a co-founder, what that looks like, and what growing the return.com team looks like for you this year, especially.
Wow, that's a loaded
It
question. I
is.
think that it's it's so empowering to be your own boss, right? And to design a product and to bring it to life. It's also one of the hardest things aside from being a mother that I've ever done. I'm also so privileged to work with a really talented co-founder who happens to be my husband, which means that I actually never stop working. And so from the moment that, I get up in the morning, Paul and I are talking about the business. When we go to bed, the last thing we're probably talking about is a problem or a challenge or a strategy. And so we're really on all the time. And it's been fun and hard. And so for us, it took us a year and a half to really get to market because we invested heavily in our technology. And so now there seems to be a proliferation of the idea of agents, that agents are autonomous. They're autonomous technology that can interact with the world. Well, a year and a half ago, no one really understood what that meant. And so we spent so much time building this agent. And what it does is, when a return is initiated, it will go out and it will either talk to on a phone call, voice, or it will chat as if it's you. And that technology took a long time to build. Now, so much faster. And so we ended up launching in the Apple Store in October. We had our first return season. And our team, did so well. We have a 98% success rate. Really proud of that. So proud of the team. And now it's really trying to add all of the other layers and elements to the business. The return engine, we're thinking about adding a marketplace. So if
Mhm.
you missed your return window, what do you do with it? Maybe, as we're thinking about a recession or we're thinking about what might come in the future, maybe
Mhm.
you want to put your closet to good use and make some money with the dresses or things that you might not wear again. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's been really it's challenging. It's the most rewarding thing I've ever done. There's no one telling you you have to do this or you have to get up in the morning. You really have to advocate for yourself. I don't know what the word no is. I feel like no is really just it's an opportunity for a yes, right? So really learning like how people work, and really not being intimidated or afraid that you don't know everything. I think that that is so important. Like so many people can be intimidated, myself included, with unknowns, but being comfortable with that and feeling like you can learn and you can grow and you can develop your skills is so important, especially for women, because I think that maybe, and I could be projecting, but I think that we've been told to stay small for so long and maybe, not play in certain avenues or arenas, but really trying to work on kind of that bravery advocacy engine, I think is critical.
Well, I mean, I think we talked about this a little bit before we started recording, even. I think something that weighs heavy on me all the time, and we talked about this, is, are we good enough? And I think that's a question that women ask themselves quite often. I've talked to enough women founders, enough women in my life to know that that's kind of a common thread. And I know imposter syndrome, knows no gender, but I do feel like, especially as working moms, which I'm very passionate about, and I know you are too, like that now you're battling it on both fronts. At least I know that I do. Like, am I good enough here? Am I good enough here? And like, and I know you've talked about work-life balance. I would love for you to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, and thank you for saying that. And I love that you described it that way because it does make me feel so heard. And I feel like so many women feel the same way, that
Yes.
there is this impossible standards that we just have so much trouble meeting, but I also feel as though it's impossible and we'll never reach it, and that's okay.
Mhm.
I believe firmly in like this idea of work-life integration, which you so
I love
kindly
that.
kindly shouted at the beginning, that there really is no such thing as work-life balance. I mean, maybe some people might be able to achieve it, but as a founder, that's not realistic. And so for me, I think about work-life integration, like if you were going to braid your hair, there are all these elements coming together. It's still a braid, it's still your life. But that's how I feel about my life. It really it is various threads coming together. It's not competing priorities because all of it really is a priority. It really depends on what the moment is. So for me on a standard day, my children are a little bit older, but I drive them to school in the morning, but I get up before they do and I have a little bit of time to myself to drink coffee and ease into the morning.
At 4
I
in the
don't
morning.
work.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you have to
I
wake up
don't.
super early. I've seen those TikTok videos like, "Oh, I got time for myself at 4."
No, I don't wake up at 3. I don't wake up at 4. I don't work out. I don't do any of those things. I literally just put my eye patches on. I sit downstairs. I drink coffee. I ease into the morning, drive them to school. I'm working from 8 until 4 when I pick them up. I make sure I get them to their activities. And then I start working again after I've made dinner at 7 and I'm working from 7 to 10 and that's a typical day for me. And so sometimes I'm so fortunate to be able to go to school activities during the workday or doctor's appointments, but it doesn't mean that I get to drop the ball at work. And so it really is just an integrated effort to live a life that feels to me that it's achievable. And I'm not hitting it out of the park in every front, in every moment, in every day. Let's be clear, I don't think anyone does. And the more that we talk about that imperfection, I think that that really makes it easier for other people to say, "Oh, maybe I can do this founder thing," or maybe it's okay if I'm not the most perfect mom. Perfect mothers don't exist. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think I mean, that's really, really well said. And I love the illustration of your workday. I think too, like social media is such a highlight reel that you see these founders achieving these things and you're like, wow, I'm way behind. But what you don't see, right, is like all the things in the background that they're working through and that, that they haven't figured out yet, and who's to say that even that the highlight reel is figured out, sometimes some of that's just marketing.
feel the same way. And I wish that we would talk a little bit more about the struggles because the people that I've seen that are successful, they have been working at this, their
Yes.
passion or their companies for 5 or 6 years, and all of a sudden they're an overnight success. And so I think that there is such an important element to give yourself grace and
Mhm.
everyone around yourself to be able to try and fail and try and succeed and try again. And I don't know, but I think that there's a different standard for women. But I hope that as women, we could be kind to each other.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, that goes to this too, like for all the women founders in the audience, like reach out to me, reach out to Eliza. Like I love to open my network up for people and I know you feel the same way and we have to support and help each other as much as we can. And I'm very passionate about that. And I know you are too. I know for the sake of time, I wanted to because we could talk forever, I think about a lot of different issues, but I want to make sure that I dig in a little bit on you talked about your work day, you talked about building out your team, okay, founder life looks very different for you and your co-founder, your husband, than some folks. But I think a lot of things will resonate with the group because, being a founder is being a founder. And I would love for you to talk about your struggles, the things that have been really successful for you, and just kind of a tips and tricks thought process.
I would say that I don't even know where to begin. There is so much information that I've learned, especially over the past couple of years. I would say that it really starts with being honest and truthful with yourself. I think all of us kind of have this intuition and these feelings that maybe things aren't going well or they could be better, and really being brave and saying, "I think I see a problem. I should investigate." And so for me, so much of my recent success has been because I listened to those feelings, I tuned in, and then I started to dive into areas of the business that maybe I didn't feel like I was super confident about, like especially the technical aspect and elements. I will say that with technology, you have this amazing tool, especially AI, to help you kind of figure out a lot of problems that or analyze situations or just strategize and have kind of like a collaborator to bounce ideas off of. So I would say first and foremost, it's really looking at your business with an honest lens, and that's hard. I think that we all say that we do it, but in practice, maybe we don't. Um, I think that also being candid and open and honest is really important, as well as being brave, leaning into those conversations that maybe at first you
Yeah.
might think, wow, this is so hard and so difficult. And just being able to say, hey, I'm seeing this, or you seeing this, or I'm noticing this, or hey, tell me a little bit more about how does this work, or what's the impact of that? And really feeling empowered that this is your business. You are entitled to know how every aspect of it runs if you
Yeah.
haven't necessarily set up some of the systems. Um, and really having a great team that you can collaborate with, that you can build systems and processes that can withstand the test of time, but also being flexible and agile because nothing is set in stone, and you have to be comfortable with change, which is
Yes.
constant. I think that being a founder means constant chaos, and that one thing that I wish that we had done better, in an area of opportunity, quite candidly, was telling our team how hard this was going to be and
Yes.
what was going to be required. I wish that I really had a slide that said, like, this place is the worst and this is so hard, just to set that mindset that it's really not the worst, but it is hard. And in order for us to do great things, we have to do them together, and we have to be ready to dig in. And this is not a 9 to 5 job. I mean, if you want to build a unicorn, you have to be willing to grind and to hustle. So, really finding those people that are hungry, that are so excited to build something with you,
Mhm.
those people are hard to find. And so, we have had just a distributed workforce. So we were remote first for a long time, and then we got an office, and we brought people back into the office 2 days a week. And it was hard, and some people didn't want to do it. But I can tell you that it increased our communication, our collaboration, and our systems and our processes for the people that came into the office. And it's
Mhm.
been so fundamentally just transformative to be able to do that. And so it's not for everyone, but I think you also have to figure out what works best for you and your team.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. You're right. I mean, I don't know that that's for everybody, but I hear you when you say face to face, because there is an element of like seeing someone in person that almost gives you a little bit of grace for that person. Right? Does that make sense? Like it's like, hey, I know you now as a person. I've seen you, and like, hey, you didn't respond to my Slack right away. Like, hey, it's okay. I met Eliza. Like, we're good. Like we had coffee, and like there's just more grace for those things versus like, hey, actually, you said something earlier. It made me laugh, and I didn't get a chance to push in on it. But the arguing with the chatbots and the dueling chatbots, and I thought about this idea of like, removing the humanity from some of these things. And honestly, I've never argued with a chatbot, but I've definitely like bumped up against the wall with one. And I do think that's important because you don't want your team to become like dueling chatbots, right? And so like, there's an element of like, how do we communicate and collaborate without the anonymity, which I think is really important to try and overcome. So.
It's so important. We've also spent time as an organization doing Enneagram training to really understand what the intrinsic motivation of each person on our team is. Because I think that we so often as humans communicate with people the way that we like to receive information. And in order to kind of unlock success, we really need to understand how does that person like to receive information?
Right.
How do they like to learn? How are they built? And if we could understand that, then we can work together so much better. And so for us, that was an investment that we made. We brought in a consultant. We took the time to take the test and to debrief after. And so, on our team, we know what each person is and how they are motivated and how they like to work. I mean, it's really been a great unlock for us as well.
Yes. I don't know much about that except for that I know that like 7 is a peacemaker maybe or something like that. And like I feel like
I don't have them.
there needs
I
to be
don't
a
have them all
peacemaker.
memorized.
I was gonna say there needs to be like a peacemaker on every team. Like there has to be at
Mhm.
least one. And I remember going through that once, and it was like that stood out to me, and it was not necessarily that was not my gifting. But I remember like thinking, oh gosh, that's an important one. Like you gotta have the person who's like, everyone take a deep breath. Like let's figure out what's going on. But no, is there anything that we haven't covered that you'd like to share with the group, with the community that is just on your mind?
I think that it's just being kind to yourself and really understanding that this is hard work and it's so fun and it's so hard. But I feel enormously privileged to be able to build something with the person that I adore the most in the world. Like, what a gift! It's so amazing. And that it's also really, really hard, and that's okay. And so, I wish that if I was giving, 20 years ago Eliza advice, it would be like, just be open, be curious, be um ready to learn, and also don't believe everything you hear. As a woman co-founder in a business that's really centered around women, I can't tell you the number of male investors that we've had conversations with that really don't understand the problem set. And so the more that I've explored other challenges and spoken with other, particularly female founders, I realize that they've encountered the same thing. There are a lot of women out there that I really respect. Jacqueline with Pepper or Wear Pepper, if you've ever seen what
Yes.
she does, or Grace Beverly with Tala. There are so many women out there that are doing incredible things, and just kind of like following their trajectory has been inspirational for me because it's really nice to see what they're doing.
Well, you should definitely add your name to that list because what you're doing is very inspirational too. And I very much appreciate it. And watching, you guys grow this year is gonna be really exciting. I know you'll be successful. You guys are determined and you have such a great team. So with that, I will ask, I always end with this question, what are you currently reading?
Oh, what am I currently reading? So I am between four books. So I have different genres. So I'm not sure if you want the more
Whichever
academic
one.
or
Sometimes I get a lot of academic, I get a lot of business books, but my favorite is the fictions because that's always like more telling of like, oh, what does this person enjoy? Like that's interesting.
okay, well, I'm going to give you a few answers if that's okay.
Please.
I'll
Yeah,
sprinkle
no,
it.
please.
I'm reading The Courage to be Disliked, which is so
Oh,
fascinating.
that's a good one.
I'm
I'm
really
gonna write that
interested.
down. That's a good one.
Yeah, I'm actually working on working up the courage to do TikTok consistently. And so I find that that is going to help give me
Yes.
just kindness and compassion to move forward. I'm also it's rereading. I've already read this series, but the Akhtar series,
Okay.
if you've ever read, it's a fantasy. It's incredible. It's kind of similar vein to Fourth Wing, if you've
Oh,
ever
yes.
dipped your
I
toes.
have. I have read that. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so I'd say those are really the books that are on my nightstand, and I need to finish Let Them, but I haven't
That's
finished
on
that.
my list too. Okay, yeah. No, but The Courage to Be Disliked sounds really good. I think the like, chronic people pleaser, like that would be a good one for me to read.
Yeah. It's so good. It's really a wonderful book, so I'm
I
almost done.
love it.
But I like to flip between genres depending on what I need at that moment, and at the end of the day, I'm usually talking to Paul about business, and so I don't really have as much time to read as I would like.
Yeah, always. I know that's very true. Well, thank you very much for your time. I will link all kinds of things in the video descriptions. If you guys want to reach out to Eliza, ask her more about her business, please do that. Connect, share, support each other. And just thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And I'm excited to see where you go.
I really, really appreciate the opportunity, and thank you. You're such a great person. This has been so much fun.
Thank you.